And a very big welcome and hello to you as we bring you the Screen Team on today's Talk 930 KWOC and 93.3 FM. Screen Team is all over the place, man. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook. We also have our own website at screenteampb.com, and you can listen to us live on your mobile phone or on your computer at KWOC.com. So there's no excuse to miss the Screen Team.
That's right.
Not one.
By the way, let me comment on your website. Very nice.
Thank you.
Good job.
Well, I didn't do it. I didn't personally.
Whoever did it did a good job.
I had a friend make it, and he's done an awesome job.
Yeah,
so
super.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for being on the show. We have Miss Brittany McKay here. She's going to be on the first segment here on this edition of the Screen Team. I have picked the movies for this evening. The first one Brittany's going to do with me is called Bridge on the River Kwai. The next one, I'm going to be joined by two drummers from the Screen Team, Doug Anderson and Jamie Hickson, and we're going to review the new drumming movie, Whiplash.
Oh, cool.
And then later on this evening, got Sabrina J in the studio, and we're going to review the new Pixar film called Inside Out.
I've heard good things about that one.
It's a very good film, very good film. We'll get to that later on this evening here on the Screen Team. So, Brittany, let's first start on with Bridge on the River Kwai. Was this a movie you had seen before?
You know, if I have, it's been so many years ago that I didn't remember a whole lot about it. I think I might have because there were a couple of scenes that I kept going, this is familiar.
Right.
So I think I must have, but it had been a long time.
This movie came out a long time ago.
Yeah.
1957 was the date it came out, and this movie is set during World War II?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd say it's probably toward the end.
Right.
But the war was definitely still going.
And we are basically, the setting is a Japanese prisoner of war camp where they have a lot of Americans and Australian people. But when we meet them, they've just captured a whole group of British soldiers and
battalion.
And they're bringing them into the prisoner of war camp. And when this happens, you meet the British soldiers, and you can tell from them that they're very regal, they're very proud, they are stubborn in some sense.
Yeah, you could say that.
And then you meet the Japanese commander, Soto, or was that his name, Soto?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. And you get introduced to him, and he says basically that you were here as a prisoner. Don't think about trying to escape. You might see that there's no bars or windows or anything here, but you ain't going to survive if you try to leave this island.
Right.
So there ain't no way you're going nowhere. So he basically tells them that, and basically tells them that you are here to work. You are here to work as a prisoner. You are here to build a bridge for the Japanese army, and you're going to do it. And if you don't do it, then there's going to be repercussions.
Right. And they had built the railroad over to that part of the river, and so they wanted to be able to connect the railroad to the other side of the river, and they basically utilized prisoners as their workforce.
Right. And when the British soldiers get there, we have Alec Guinness, who is in command of the British soldiers, and he understands the situation. He understands what has to happen, and he tells Soto that they're willing to cooperate, but Soto wants more. He wants every working man to be able to work, even the officers. And Alec Guinness isn't down with that.
Yeah.
And he says they're not going to do it.
As the way I understood it in the movie, there was actually a treaty that said that you could utilize prisoners as a workforce, but you couldn't make the officers work.
Correct.
And so he's kind of a jerk, and he's saying the officers have to work too.
Exactly. And Alec Guinness isn't having none of that.
Yeah.
So
and
basically,
I kept watching it going, why is he being so dang stubborn about this?
Yeah.
It's not that they're lazy. It's not that. It's to him, it's like a matter of principle.
Right.
You know?
Where Soto sees it as a matter of, hey, you lost.
Right. We captured you. You're mine.
You don't have.
He's a bad guy.
You don't have any rights anymore.
Right.
You know?
Right, yeah.
So basically
treaties don't mean much to this guy.
Right. So basically the first hour of this movie is a standoff. It's a cat and mouse game between these two characters. Yeah. And you're also introduced to, I guess, the only American who's still on the prisoner of war camp, played by William Holden. And
isn't it funny the contrast between his personality and the British soldiers?
Well, he's an American. He's got that cocky attitude.
Yeah, it's just so funny, the difference in their personalities. And when they first get there, he's like, "Yeah, you're never gonna make it."
Yeah.
He just thinks, "Yeah, whatever."
And did you notice that for like 90% of the movie, he had his shirt off?
Yes.
I mean, he was
sell tickets.
He was a well-built dude, man.
Yeah, he was. Yes, he was.
So basically, you have him in there, and he escapes.
Yeah.
He escapes the prisoner of war camp like the only person to do that, and he gets found by I guess an allied group of soldiers, and they recruit him to go back to the prisoner of war camp to demolish the bridge that everybody's working on so hard.
Basically, yeah.
So all in all, I guess that's kind of the description of the movie. What were your thoughts on the film?
It's one of those classic old type movies where their production was so much different than ours today, and movies moved at a little slower pace back then, and so it has that old feel of an old classic movie like that, but the story is intriguing.
Yeah.
I asked my dad, because he's a big war buff and history buff, and I said, is this movie based on a true story? And he said, yes, it is. So it'd be interesting to go back and compare the actual story to the movie and see how close to the actual facts it was, because the whole concept of this guy finally escaping after what seems like years of imprisonment in this camp, and then them asking him to go back.
Yeah.
It's like crazy. That's just a crazy thought, to ask this guy to go back after all that. But
and they get him to do it.
They convince him.
Yeah,
they
convince sure did.
him. They use some logic with him, and and agreed to let him work with who he wants to work with, basically. And and they convince him. So it's an interesting story.
I tell you, some of the best scenes are between Alec Guinness and the Japanese commander, Colonel Sato. It's so cool to see the cat and mouse game. They're each trying to one-up each other, and you think someone might have the advantage, but then someone else comes back and one-ups them. So I like that dynamic of the movie. I love the cinematography of the movie. I think it's absolutely beautiful.
Some of those shots of the river and
just gorgeous. But when you have stuff like that, you also have long camera movements, and that makes the movie a little extra long. So that's why it's almost 2.5 to 2:45 in
Is it really?
total.
I didn't see it. I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, it's a long movie. That's all. It's an epic, as they say.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great film, and it's got so many iconic scenes, and one of the coolest ones is at the very end. What happens to Alec Guinness and how the bridge finally explodes. It's so cool.
Dang.
So in all, I think it's a great movie. It's one of my all-time favorite classic movies. It stars Alec Guinness and William Holden. It's called Bridge on the River Kwai, and you can find it on DVD. Coming up after the break, we're going to be joined by Doug Anderson and Jamie Hickson. We're going to review one of my favorite movies of 2014 called Whiplash. It's next on Today's Talk, 930 KWOC.